everyone, my name is Celine and today I'm going to give you a video about some books that I reread in 2015. The funny thing is that back in 2014, I think it was, I did a video about me not really rereading books because I felt like it was kind of a waste of time having all of those amazing new titles out there that I wanted to get to, so I didn't really reread books. However, in 2015 I gradually started doing it. Mostly because I reread one book and realized that I really loved rereading it. It was a totally new experience to me, but I loved it. And then one book took the other, and in the end I ended up rereading 7 books in 2015. So I thought that I would go through them now and show you what they are, and also tell you whether the rereading of the book made it better for me or worse for me, because both things happened. Before I get started, I just want to tell you that after having reread these books, what I love about rereading and what makes me want to reread even more in 2016 is the fact that you know the story, and that means that when you read it again, when you revisit it, you will discover so many new things that you didn't see the first time around, which is obviously great. But also you will know that this is going to be a safe journey because you know that you're going to love it, and you know that it's going to be a good reading experience. So you can just relax and read and discover all of these new things that you didn't discover the first time around. Those are the 2 main reasons for me starting to rereading books, because I just really love the experience, and also owning so many books, it's just plain logic to me to reread some of them since I own them anyway. So the very first book I reread in 2015 was also the very first book I read of the year, and that is Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. This time around I loved it as much as the first time around. It remains one of my favorite classics of all time. It is about this main character Anna Karenina, who is married in Russia. However, she falls in love with another man and she starts having an affair with him, which is very much looked down upon in this society in Russia. So it's basically about her journey and her struggles about this affair. But as you can see, it's a big book and it's also about so much more. We follow some other characters, and also my favorite literary scene of all time is in this book. So basically I really loved revisiting that one. The next one I reread was The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. This one I read the first time around when I was at university and we were forced to read it, and that time around I was enjoying it, but I wasn't loving it. But in 2015 I suddenly had an urge to read it again, and this time around I loved it so much. I think I gave it 4 stars, so I definitely enjoyed it a lot more than I did the first time around. This one is about a main character who wants to become a writer or a poet. And in the beginning of the book, she is in New York with a bunch of other aspiring writers who are on this kind of seminar where they can learn to write and just be together. However, this book is also about depression and how your depression can make you feel alone, even though you are in the middle of a bunch of people and even though you are in New York. And things continue from there. It's a beautiful book. You can sense that Sylvia Plath is also a poet, and I just really love this rereading of it. The next reread turned out to become the most amazing and pleasant surprise of the year, because the first time I read it, I only enjoyed it. I was not overwhelmed and I gave it 3 stars. But this time around it became one of my favorite books of all time, and that is The Ocean at the End of the Lane by Neil Gaiman. And I think I know why I changed my mind about this book the second time around. It is because you simply have to read it again, or at least I did, in order to understand what was really going on. This is basically a book about memories, and these memories are not very easy to deal with. They are very complicated to follow, they are intricate, and there's also some magical realism to them. So the first time I read it I was utterly confused, but this time around I knew what I was going into, and I knew that I loved Neil Gaiman and so many other people love this book, so I wanted to read it again and see if a new chance would help me understand it better, and it certainly did. So much that I, as I said, gave it 5 stars, and it became one of my favorite books of last year. If you haven't read this book, please do so, and do not be afraid if you don't completely understand everything that's going on, because maybe a reread will help you. Then we have a young adult book which was turned into a movie this year or last year, and it's not like I was wanting to watch the movie and so that's why I reread it. It's just because I have heard so many great things about this book, and when I read it the first time I wasn't completely sold. But this time around I was, and that is Me and Earl and a Dying Girl by Jessie Andrews, a young adult book about a girl who is dying from cancer, which sounds very depressing and sad, and it is. But this book is written so brilliantly because it is written with a lot of humor, and this time around I caught the humor and I loved it so much. The tone of this book is so relaxing, however it's about this heavy topic, so it mingles these two opposites in a beautiful book, and I just really loved it. So this was another pleasant reread, but I upgraded this one from 3 stars to 4 stars this time around. Next I have Vicious by V.E. Schwab, that sounded a little bit weird, but anyway, which I enjoyed as much the second time around as I did the first time around, so this was still a good book. I think I gave it 4 stars in the end because this is basically a build-up to this very dramatic ending, which is amazing, but it's also about superpowers and exploring how you can gain superpowers, and that can become quite a dangerous game. So this book has a lot of elements in it, as you can hear, and I really love it. It's my favorite by V.E. Schwab, and I'm very happy to own it so that I can maybe reread it a second time around next year or sometime later. Next we have The Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne. Now this is a classic, and this is a book that actually became worse in my eyes from rereading it. The first time I read it back some years ago, I enjoyed it, I wasn't overwhelmed, but it was good enough. But this time around I was very much disappointed, and I think it's because I've become more critical when it comes to my reading, so that in this book I noticed that, for instance, the characters are very flat. It's kind of extreme how flat they are, so you never get to know them in depth, and that naturally creates a disconnect to the story, at least in my eyes. But also the story in itself is very simple. It's basically too simple. I didn't feel caught in the story. I wasn't eager to get back to it and read it. Thankfully, it's no more than about 200 pages long, as far as I remember. But this one I ended up giving 2 stars. And the last book I reread, I think a lot of people reread back in 2015 or will be rereading in 2016. And that is Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone by J.K. Rowling. And I reread this beautiful illustrated edition, which is illustrated by Jim Kay. I'm sure you've heard of it. I wanted to reread it because this, I was hoping, would give me a different kind of reading experience, and it certainly did. I loved this book, obviously. The story is still the same, but it's so good, and the illustrations gave something new to the story, which I really loved, and I wasn't disappointed, so obviously I gave this one 5 stars. And those were all of the books that I reread in 2015. As I said, I would like to reread some books again in 2016, and I'm sure that will happen. I already have one book in mind that I would love to reread, and that is, I might just as well show you, that is White Oleander by Janet Fitch, which I read about a year ago, and I like to make at least 1 year go before I reread a book, because I don't want to remember too much of it. But this one is a favorite of mine, and I just really want to reread it, so maybe that will be in 2016. But I'm not promising anything. That's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Feel free to let me know in the comments what your feelings are towards rereading books, if you like it or not, and all that jazz. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day, everyone. Happy reading. Bye bye.